Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Select Star from Data Lake. And today we're going to just talk about a formula for sort of like modern data platforms, and that is data virtualization plus semantic layer plus data lakehouse. And yes, if you're wondering, yes, that does equal Dremio. I mean, technically, those are sort of like the three things that Dremio really kind of brings you in strong fold. But why are these three things particularly kind of important to have sort of like all nice wrapped together in a really nice, easy to use, fast way? Um, well, again, data virtualization is the idea that you can interact with data from many places and interact as it you're dealing with like one central location. So the idea is when you're using Dremio, you're able to connect your Postgres, your MySQL, your Apache Druid, your Elasticsearch, your Snowflake, your Redshift, and so forth and so forth and so forth, then your data lakes, and kind of connect them all into one place and join tables and query tables as if it were really just one giant database. So that's what data virtualization is. And again, with the reflections features I've talked about in previous episodes, you can really take that virtualization and do it at scale. Because oftentimes other virtualization platforms, what they do is they push down queries, which means that let's say I'm querying all the data from a SQL table, a SQL Server table. What it would do is it would send the initial query to SQL Server. SQL Server will process, and then anything additional will then be done by the virtualization system. And that works. The problem is that technically you're still using the underlying system. You're still sending that query to SQL Server. You're still sending that query to Snowflake. So as you try to scale out that system, you're dealing with having to worry about the uptime of all these systems simultaneously. You are dealing with the horizontal and vertical potential scaling limits of different systems, and so forth and so forth. So you bypass all that with Dremio through a feature called Reflections, where Dremio essentially, instead of you making a copy that you manage, okay, of the data on your data lake, Dremio will essentially do that for you. So essentially, for your intents and purposes, you're just working with the original data, but Dremio is going to be using sort of its internally managed copy for you. Basically eliminating all those scaling issues, improving performance, all sorts of really good stuff. So it really allows virtualization to happen at scale. Okay, so Dremio can do that. It can allow you to query data across all your sources. But then there's the semantic layer piece. And again, the semantic layer is a hard thing to sort of like tangibly imagine, but just imagine that generally you have all these raw data sets in your different databases and data warehouses, but oftentimes what people need isn't the raw data set. What they need is, you have your, table of all sales, or, your data set of all sales, but really the analyst wants to run a query on, or wants to analyze what's the average sale by product category. Okay, but you're not going to necessarily materialize that as a separate table. So technically what's going to happen is that you have all these different ways of looking at the data that are not necessarily like their business logic, their business views and metrics. Okay, there's basically things that you as the business look at that's derived from the data, or data that's derived from these raw bits of data that you use to make decisions and understand the business better. Okay, you can think of them as your business logic, your business metrics. So the semantic layer allows you to define these things. So basically in Dremio, this is done through virtual views, sometimes referred to as virtual data sets, very analogous like SQL views. But essentially what you're doing is you're predefining these metrics as SQL. So you can say, hey, you know what, and you can save them as, so that way basically they become a data set that your users can query. This makes it a lot easier for users to find the information they're looking for, because they're not having to reinvent that SQL every time from scratch, and they have names that sort of reflect the business concepts that people are used to. So that's like the semantic layer. The idea is that you have this layer where you have the chunks and definitions of data already sort of pre-saved under names that people understand. Okay, so it's like this logical view of the data. But again, Dremio allows you to really take advantage of this at scale. So with Dremio's particular implementation of the semantic layer, you get two different benefits. One, a lot of the data sets in your semantic layer don't have to be physical, so you're not making copies of your data. Okay, and the things that you might have layers, like, so you might have a semantic layer. Usually it's like a 3-tier thing. So you have your raw data, then you have like an intermediate layer, which people might call like business, they might call silver, they might call Transforms, this is generally where you do sort of like cleanup work. So you're basically getting rid of duplicates, getting rid of nulls, denormalizing data sets. So these are things that are like business, like your specific business is just like cleaning up and preparing the data. So that's like generally your middle layer. And then you have like that third layer, like that gold, that production, that semantic layer, which is where your actual business metrics are. So you actually have data sets that are named after your business metrics, and you are transforming the data, but you're not transforming it to clean it. You're transforming it to reflect what your users are looking for. So basically, the changes are what you're doing is you're applying business logic at that layer. Okay, and that's layer number 3. Okay, so point is like you might have these 3 layers, and traditionally you would have to make copies of the data. So you'd make a physical copy of your silver layer, then another physical copy of your gold layer, and then you'd create additional different things based on that. But with Dremio, you can do that all virtually. You can actually create views based on views and create this sort of like nice sort of layered system all virtually, so without creating duplicates of your data, and then decide to materialize where it makes more sense. So you might want to just materialize your business logic layer, your semantic layer, that top layer, where it's just basically, hey, these are the things that people are actually going to query. Let me just turn on reflections, and now those things are physical without everything in between having to be physical. So Dremio semantic layer allows you to kind of really minimize your storage costs. But 2, it also allows your acceleration, those reflections, to be more portable. Because oftentimes what people would do is if you might have one data team working in Power BI, another data team working in Tableau, and they might be using a feature called extracts where they create like a physical copy of the data, but it's stored in Power BI, it's stored in Tableau. So now the problem is that now you've just made 2 copies because you have 2 different teams working with 2 BI tools. But if you had made that reflection in Dremio, or done that as a reflection in Dremio, then Power BI and Tableau would both benefit from that acceleration. So you're getting the same buck across multiple teams on the same data set. So again, data virtualization, semantic layer, and last, data lakehouse, which is the ability to query your data lake in ways that would be normal to like a data warehouse. So meaning being able to do upserts, being able to do deletes and updates and all that stuff, not just reads. And when it comes to Apache Iceberg tables, in your object stores, Dremio can do that. And not only do that, it can manage your data lakehouse. So that way it works like a data warehouse in the sense where you don't have to think about it. It can auto-optimize those tables, auto-do garbage cleanup. Okay, it has tools for you to manually do that. Dremio has many different interfaces for you to automate SQL to it, whether it's JDBC, ODBC, Apache Aeroflight, REST API. You can automate your activity test or your request to Dremio pretty easily. Okay, allowing for easy automation of this system. So you'll be able to automate all these activities across all these different data sources, curate that semantic layer using tools like dbt, like Airflow, whatever your favorite tools are. So bottom line is you get all this in one platform, and there's a lot of benefits you get from that because Dremio is aware of the semantic layer, its acceleration can be reusable. Okay, so you get more bang for buck for your acceleration. And because there's all this context provided because of the semantic layer, Dremio's query engine is able to do optimizations that other query engines may not be able to do without that kind of context. And because of reflections, you can optimize the performance of the data across all these different data sources in a way that allows you really to do sort of high scale, fast analytics. So yeah, bottom line is that these are sort of 3 things you want in a modern data platform, which is data virtualization, semantic layer, and data lakehouse. And Dremio provides you all 3 in a nice, easy, fast wrapper. So go check it out. Again, I've written lots of blogs showing you how to get hands-on with Dremio, and I'll put all those in the description. And you guys have a great day. I'll see you all later on.